Welcome to Conversations at the Crossroads. I'm Jenny, your host. I'm the owner of Hex and Hair, a metaphysical salon suite where I blend hair artistry and energy work and magic. I'm a hairstylist. I am also a Reiki healer, and I mentor and teach witchcraft in person here locally in Hampton Roads, Virginia, in both public circles and in private, intimate settings. I'm a multi-passionate person, so my work tends to live in the intersection of beauty, energy, ritual, and everyday life. Conversations at the Crossroads is a space where all of those paths meet. This is where we talk about spirituality, magic, astrology, healing, and being a human on this wild planet through the lens of lived experience, not perfection. My intention is to offer you tools, perspectives, and stories that help you come home to yourself and navigate your own crossroads with more clarity and a little more enchantment. So whether you're here for a witchy education or the cosmic forecasts or just to feel less alone on your path, I'm really glad that you're here. So with that being said, let's step on to the crossroads. Welcome back to Conversations at the Crossroads. I'm so glad you're here. Whether you have been into astrology forever or you're just astro curious and trying to figure out what all these memes are about, the memes about your big three and Mercury being in Gatorade, which is a reference to Mercury being in retrograde, actually means. Today, I want to slow things down and talk you through some basics of astrology, but in a way that actually connects to real life and your body and mind and soul. So if you've ever looked at your birth chart and thought, what am I even looking at? This episode is for you. You might want to grab a notebook or the Notes app on your phone, unless you're driving. Totally don't do that. Keep your eyes on the road. You can come back to this later. But I also invite you to, at some point, pull up your birth chart and you can start to see how this all lands for you. Let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about what astrology is. In the simple terms, astrology is a study of the relationship between what's happening in the sky and what's happening down here on Earth. I like to think of it as a symbolic language. The planets are like characters, and the signs are their costumes, their drag, if you will, or personalities. And the houses are the areas where the story plays out. When you hear people talk about a birth chart or natal chart, it's just a map of the sky at the exact moment and place you were born. It's like a cosmic screenshot of the energy that you arrived with or in. There are many branches of astrology: mundane, financial, relationship astrology, and there's many different types of astrology. Traditional, holistic, Vedic, psychological, medicinal. There's lots of different terms and types of astrology. But in this podcast today, I'm going to mostly focus on pop Western astrology and personal and spiritual astrology, how to understand yourself and your pattern and your cycles within that realm of knowledge. It's about having a map so that you're not walking in the dark. Let's talk about the zodiac signs. The 12 signs you've heard of, Aries through Pisces. Each sign has two important qualities, an element and a modality. The elements are fire, earth, air, and water. You can think of them in this way. The fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, are about action and passion and enthusiasm. They say, I have to move. I have to create. The earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, are about practicality, grounding, the body. And they ask, what's real, tangible, and sustainable? The air signs are Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, and they're about ideas, communications, social energy. They say, let's talk about it, let's think about it. And water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, are all about emotions and intuition, energetic sensitivity. They say, I feel it before I can explain it. Then we have modalities, also called qualities, and this is how their energy moves. There are 3 cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And they're the initiators. They start things and set things in motion. They're called cardinal because each one is the first sign of its season. Aries starts spring. Cancer starts summer. Libra starts the fall. Capricorn starts the winter. That first energy shows up as starting projects, kicking off conversations, and launching new chapters. A fixed energy, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, are the stabilizers. They hold, they sustain, they commit, and sometimes they resist change. Each is in the middle of a season. Taurus is mid-spring, Leo is mid-summer, Scorpio is mid-fall, Aquarius mid-winter. They hold and sustain what has already been begun, and bringing consistency and loyalty and sometimes stubbornness. And then mutable, which is Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, they're the adapters. They shift, they transition, and they help us move from one phase to another. Each one closes out a season. Gemini ends the spring, Virgo ends the summer, Sagittarius ends the fall, and Pisces ends the winter. They specialize in transitions and in between spaces, editing, adjusting, integrating, and helping us pivot into the next phase. Think about a friend who always starts projects and struggles to finish. That's very cardinal energy. The one who will die on a hill rather than change their mind, that's fixed. The friend who always is in transition and always evolving and pivoting, that's mutable. When you start looking at your chart, you can ask, do I have a lot of fire, a lot of earth? Am I very fixed, very cardinal, very mutable? That alone can explain why certain ways of living feel natural and others feel exhausting. Most people only know their sun sign. It's the easiest to find out because it only requires your birth date. But the big 3 is your sun, moon, and rising, and they give a much fuller picture. Here's how to think of them. Sun is your core self, your vitality, your life force and direction, what lights you up, and it's what you're growing toward. Your moon is your emotional landscape and nervous system, what you need to feel safe, nourished, and soothed, how you process your feelings. It's your inner world and how you talk to yourself. Rising, or sometimes referred to as ascendant, is the energy in which you move through the world. It's the vibe people feel first. It's the lens you meet life through. It's how you show up to the party. I like the image that your rising sign is the doorway to your chart. It's the front door. The sun is the hearth fire inside of the house. And the moon is the bedroom or your inner sanctuary where your true feelings live. For example, someone could have a fiery Leo sun, which wants to shine and create, but a Virgo moon, which is very detail-oriented, sensitive to chaos and calmed by order. And their rising might be something totally different, like Scorpio, which can make them come across intense and private at first, even if there's a playful core underneath. If you're listening and you only know your sun sign, it's worth pulling up your chart later and finding out your moon and your rising, because as you keep listening to this podcast, I'll be talking about how different transits land for your big 3 specifically. Remember that language that we used earlier? Planets as characters, signs as costumes, house as a stage? Let's sit with that one for a second. We're going to talk about a few of the key planets. There's the sun and the moon, and they are the lights. They are your core and your inner world. When astrologers talk about sun and moon as the lights, we are talking about the two main sources of inner illumination in the chart. The sun is your core flame, your life force, your conscious sense of self, the part of you that says, this is who I am and what I am here to grow into. And the moon is your inner night world where your emotional body, instincts, memories, and part of you that just like reacts before you can explain why. In real life, the moon doesn't shine on its own. It reflects the light of the sun. And you can think of it the same way in your chart. Your moon reflects and filters your sun's light. Oh. Your core self, the sun, beams out a certain kind of energy. And your emotional nature, the moon, catches that light and turns it into feelings, needs, habits, and mood. So if your sun is the what of your purpose, your moon is the how it feels from the inside. Paying attention to both shows not only who you are becoming, but also what your heart and nervous system need in order to actually live that out. And then we have Mercury, communication, thinking, learning, how you process information and speak. Mercury is the planet of messages, information, schedules, contracts, short trips, and how we process and share ideas. And this is what people are talking about with Mercury retrograde, because when a planet is in retrograde, it appears to move backwards. And so astrologers read that its energy is turning inwards, slowing down, and becoming less straightforward. And we get communication glitches. We get misread texts or emails lost, technology acting funny. I was about to teach a class once and I realized that it was Mercury retrograde when I was trying to print out all of the handouts and I could not get my printer to work. And then I stopped and I was like, oh, this Mercury retrograde. I feel it. This is where it's happening. So that's kind of where those memes come from. Then we have Venus, which is love, pleasure, attraction, and what you value and how you relate. And Mars, which is desire, drive, boundaries, and how you go after what you want. Venus and Mars are like the love and desire duo in the chart, but they cover more than just romance. Venus is the part of you that attracts, receives, and harmonizes. It speaks to what you find beautiful and what feels pleasurable, how you relate to others, and what you value enough to say yes to. Venus shows you your love language in a broad sense, how you give your affection, how you like to be appreciated, and even the kind of aesthetics, art, and environments that make your heart soften. Mars is the part of you that pursues, protects, and takes action. It's your raw drive, your libido, your anger, your boundaries. Mars shows how you go after what you want, how you handle conflict, and what you'll fight for when it matters. So if Venus is how you magnetize and enjoy, Mars is how you assert and chase. Together, they describe your personal dance between receiving and going after, between softness and heat, and how that shows up in love, work, creativity, and everyday decisions. And then we have Jupiter and Saturn are like the two big teachers in the sky, but they teach us in very different ways. Jupiter is often called the planet of luck, but it's really about growth and expansion and blessings that come when we're willing to say yes and stretch beyond our comfort zone. It tends to magnify whatever it touches: opportunities, confidence, belief. So Jupiter shows where life can open up, where doors swing wider, and where faith and generosity tend to be rewarded. Saturn, on the other hand, is linked to time, structure, and what a lot of people call karma. It's part that asks, what are you really committed to? And what are you willing to work for over the long term? Saturn doesn't usually feel like luck. It feels like lessons, consequences, and slow, steady building. But over time, Saturn is where your mastery lives. It shows the areas where you might hit walls or delays until you take responsibility, do the inner work, and honor your limits. At which point, Saturn often becomes the solid foundation you can depend on. So, Jupiter shows where life wants to grow you, and Saturn shows where life wants to mature you. And then we have Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And yes, I said Uranus, not Uranus. I may be 12 inside, but for this, we're going to keep it a little profesh, all right? So, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, the slow-moving collective energies that bring shocks and awakenings, dreams and dissolving, deep transformation and rebirth. In Western astrology, we're basically taking a 360-degree circle, the sky around us, and slicing it into 12 equal pieces. If you divide 360 degrees by 12, you get 30 degrees. So each zodiac sign is a 30-degree segment of the big circle. Aries takes the first 30 degrees, Taurus the next 30, and so on all the way around to Pisces, which closes the wheel. The houses are also often shown as 12 sections of that 360-degree circle, like hours on a clock. Each house covers its own slice of space, its own room of life. Even though astrologers can use a few different systems to calculate those slices. That's why when you look at a birth chart, it's a circle divided into 12 pizza slices, 12 signs, and 12 houses interacting. The signs describe the quality of the energy in each slice, and the houses describe what area of life that energy shows up. The houses show where this all plays out in your life. You don't have to memorize them right now, but it's a quick sketch. In astrology, the houses are different rooms in your life. The areas where the planets and signs actually show up in real lived experience. Same planet and same sign in a different house can feel totally different because the focus of life changes. In the first house, we have self, body, and identity. This is the house of I am. It describes your physical presence, how you instinctively move through the world, and how others first perceive you. It's tied closely to the rising sign and sets the tone for the whole chart. Your second house is about resources, money, and self-worth. This is the house of I have. It covers money, income, possessions, how you earn, and your relationships with security and stability. It also speaks to your self-worth and the things that you value and cling to. Your third house is about mind, communication, and everyday life. The house of I think and I speak. It rules your mental patterns, your communication style, siblings, if you have them, neighbors, short trips, and day-to-day learning. It's also how you process information and interact with your immediate environment. Your fourth house is your home, your roots, your inner foundation. This is the house of I belong. It's your home, family of origin, ancestry, and your private inner world. It says a lot about your emotional foundations, like how you nest and what home is for you. Your fifth house is creativity, pleasure, and romance. The house of I create. It rules self-expression, art, play, hobbies, romance, dating, and traditionally children. It's where you shine for fun, where you take risks, and where joy and creativity want to pour out of you. The sixth house is work, health, daily practice. This is the house of I serve. It speaks to your everyday routines, your job, your coworker, your body's maintenance, and how stress shows up in your system. It's where habits, boundaries, and practical care live. Your seventh house is one-to-one relationships. It is the house of we. It covers committed partnerships, romantic, business, and close collaborations, as well as how you mirror and are mirrored by others. It shows what you seek and project in long-term relationships. The 8th house is intimacy, shared resources, and transformation. This is the house of we merge. It rules deep intimacy, sex as soul level bonding, shared money, taxes, inheritances, and the place where you confront loss, shadow, and rebirth. It's where you metabolize the things that are too intense to carry alone. The 9th house is belief, expansion, and higher learning. The house of I seek. It covers spirituality or religion, philosophy, higher education, publishing, and long distance travel. It's how you search for meaning and stretch beyond your familiar world. The 10th house is career, reputation, and public role. This is the house of I achieve. It rules your calling, career path, public image, and how you're seen in the wider world. It often shows the kind of responsibilities or legacy you're here to build. The 11th house is community, friends, and future visions. It's the house of we expand. It governs friendships, groups, networks, collective spaces, and your hopes and goals for the future. It shows where you plug into the wider web of people and causes. And then there's the 12th house, the unseen, subconscious, and the spirit. This is the house of I surrender. It's tied to the subconscious, dreams, solitude, retreat, spirituality, and things happening behind the scenes. It can show you where you may feel invisible, but also it's where you're closest to the mystical and the liminal. And I find it really interesting because, when you look at it on the wheel and you have the first house, which is the house of self, next to the 12th house, which is the house of the unseen, the subconscious. It's like the opposites. It's where the veil lives. You have what's here in your body physically manifested in the first house, and in the 12th house, you have the subconscious, the spirit, the unseen. So I just think that that's really cool when I look at it and I see those two come together. And I think that if there's things that exist on the cusp of those two houses, it can be a really interesting thing to look at. So let's take Venus as an example and drop her into two totally different stories. If someone has Venus in Aries in the 7th house, that's fiery, fast Venus on the stage of one-to-one relationships. Venus in Aries tends to love the chase, direct honesty, and a sense of adventure and love. Put that in the 7th house, and you might see someone who is drawn to bold, assertive partners who comes alive in relationships that feel like a joint quest. They might fall in and out quickly, need lots of independence inside partnerships, and feel most attracted when there's a spark, a little friction, and a sense of we're doing something exciting together. Now, imagine Venus in Capricorn in the 2nd house. Here, Venus is practical, serious, and long-term oriented. And the 2nd house is about money and resources and self-worth. This person might express love by providing, building stability, and showing up reliably over time. They may be attracted to partners who are responsible, ambitious, and grounded. And they often link love and value to hard work and tangible results. They could have pleasure that comes from saving and investing, building a business, or slowly crafting a life that feels secure. Relationships might move a little more slowly, but once they commit, they are in it for the long haul. So you see, it's the same planet, Venus, the way that we love and enjoy and value things, but in Aries, in the 7th, she's rushing into passionate, dynamic relationships, while in Capricorn in the 2nd, she's quietly building a solid foundation of shared resources and long-term loyalty. Different costume, different stage, completely different story. In my own chart, I'm a Virgo sun, Gemini moon, and Sagittarius rising. I like to joke that I'm earth, wind, and fire. So I'm a mixture. My Virgo sun sits at the core of who I am. I'm wired to notice details, refine things, and turn spiritual ideas into something practical you can actually use in daily life, like maybe a podcast. My Gemini moon shows up in how I process emotions. I think and talk my feelings out. I get curious about them, and my nervous system calms down when I can name and understand what I'm sensing. I really try to apply logic to my feelings before feeling them, if that makes sense. And I don't do that consciously. It's just my first reaction is, how do I understand what this feeling is? How do I make it logical? I'm sure other Gemini moons out there can relate. Then that Sagittarius rising is the energy you probably feel the most on this podcast, which is my exploratory side, a little blunt sometimes. I'm always looking for the bigger meaning or lesson in whatever we're moving through together. So even just looking at my big three, you can see how this show becomes a blend of grounded Virgo teaching, chatty Gemini curiosity, and Sag rising, let's go on a quest together energy. You can do the same thing with your own chart once you know your sun, moon, and rising. So let's make this practical for you. If you're able to, you can pause this episode and pull up a free birth chart online. You'll need your birth date, exact time, and place of birth. I really like Time Passages as an app, and I really like AstroSeek. That's ASTROSEEK.com as a website. Again, don't do this if you're driving. Do it later. But a quick note for anyone who doesn't know their exact birth time or doesn't have a birth certificate handy, you can still play with this. If you know your birth date and place, you can at least know your sun sign for sure, which tells you a lot about your core energy and what you're growing towards. Many chart calculators also let you run a chart using the default 12 p.m. And it won't give you the most reliable rising sign or house placements, but it will show you which signs most of your planets were in that day. Or if you know that you were born in the morning or at nighttime, sometimes I recommend people plug in 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to kind of narrow it down a little bit more, try to get it a little closer to what could be accurate. Still, it's not guaranteed accurate, but it might bring you some things that you resonate with. But if that's you, just for now, focus on your sun sign and any other planets that you can see, and listen to the episode as a way to start learning the language. Later, if you're able to track down your birth time, you can come back to this and add in your moon, your rising, and the houses and a deeper layer. Once you have all that in front of you, notice the elements of each of the signs, the sun, moon, rising signs. Are you more fiery, earthy, air, watery, a mixture? Notice the modalities. Are they cardinal, fixed, or mutable? It's kind of funny. All of mine are mutable. So the transitions and liminal vibe of that, I relate heavily to. Then, if you can see the houses, find which one your sun is in, and the area of life is where your core energy naturally wants to shine. Your moon's house can show where you're emotionally sensitive and where you need to take extra care. Your rising sign's house is always the first, and that's why it's so important. It sets the wheel for everything else. If you can't get a chart up right now, don't worry, just listen and let the language soak in, and the more you hear it, the more it starts to click. When you start weaving the different pieces of a chart together, it stops being a pile of symbols and turns into a living, breathing story of a person. The elements show raw quality of your energy. The modalities show how that energy moves, and the planetary rulers reveal whose voice is the loudest in the room. A fiery cardinal placement ruled by Mars is going to feel very different from a watery, mutable placement ruled by the moon or Jupiter, even if they share the same sign. Layer by layer, element, modality, sign, ruler, house, all of these pieces mix up into a one-of-a-kind recipe that explains why you move the way that you do. why you love the way that you do, and why you learn the way that you do. That's why no two charts ever really feel exactly the same. Each one is its own vivid picture of how spirit chooses to express itself through you. So to recap what we covered today, astrology as a symbolic language, the elements and modalities behind the signs, your big three, the idea of planets as characters moving through different areas of your life. In future episodes, when I talk about a big transit or an eclipse or Mercury retrograde, I'll keep bringing you back to this foundation. Where is this happening in your chart? Which planet is being activated? Which house is being lit up for you? If you want to go deeper, you can start by journaling on your big three. Does your sun sign actually feel like your core self? Does your moon sign describe your emotional needs? Does your rising sign match the way people see you at a first glance? If it doesn't, how can you lean into that rising sign? How can you show up more like that? And what might that do for your life? This is really just scratching the surface of astrology. It's a deep and layered field of study. And what we covered today is the foundation I'll keep building on over time. I fully intend to go much deeper into charts, transits, and techniques in future episodes. And I'll also be offering in-person classes and other exciting ways to study this work more in depth with me. So if today lit something up for you, keep an eye out for those educational deep dives. Thank you for being here and for being willing to explore yourself in this way. If this episode helped astrology feel less intimidating and more like a tool you can actually use, I'd love if you share it with a friend who's always sending you their birth chart or videos or memes about how each sign might react to something, and find a way to connect with your friends and help spread some information. Join me next week with Megan. She's an astrologer and one of the owners of a community workspace here in my local area. It's called the Holistic Treehouse, and it's wonderful. It's where I host workshops. There's lots of practitioners who host some really cool workshops, including Megan. And we are going to do a deep dive into the recent and current planetary transits and how they will affect the future and your own energetic experiences, and how you can look at your chart and get insight to your own personal connection to the cosmic movement. Take tender care of your body and your energy, and I'll see you in the next episode where we start applying these basics to the current cosmic weather. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to stay connected. You can come hang out with me on Instagram, find more of my work, offerings, and goodies over at hexandhair.com, and join me on TikTok, where I share more bite-sized thoughts, rituals, and reminders to take care of your magic. Be kind to yourself this week. I'm so proud of you for being here, and I can't wait to talk to you in the next episode. Bye!